Hi everybody, it's Doc Quick here. This is some content I'm gonna be posting on the side here while I'm working on my main series of videos. So these are going to be some analysis videos of pro games that are currently going on. So I'm just gonna talk over a game and give my thoughts on it with very little editing, just to build up some content on my channel here. And the main purpose is to sort of build a portfolio as a League of Legends coach that I can send as work samples. But of course, anybody who would find it interesting to watch is very much welcome. I really do appreciate it. So I'm gonna put my little guy in the corner just watching with us. Probably not gonna animate him for this video. He's just gonna sit there because, you know, he's my guy. So let's hop into the game. So I'm gonna be taking a look at decision making from both teams and give my opinion if decisions are wrong or right. Obviously, in order to do that, I first have to establish how I measure the correctness of certain plays. So I'm gonna look at the draft and establish what both teams want to be doing. So Down1 Gaming is really straightforward. They have a lot of poke. They can force dives with Cannon and Lee Sin. It's a poke comp. They want to have Baron to win. So in the early game, I want to see steps taken towards getting the outer turrets down to get more Baron pressure. That's what I'm looking for. They should be able to get early objectives with the pressure from their bot lane, early dragons, early heralds, and I want them to get that Baron, basically. T1's comp on the other side has a very different win condition. It's actually not Baron. They have what I call a solo carry win condition, meaning one singular champion can take down the Nexus on his own. It's the Twisted Fate. Because of his ultimate, because of his sheen damage, he can basically kill the Nexus on his own. So that makes him the win condition. The goal of the game is to get the Nexus. He can do that on his own. So it's a Baron comp against a solo carry comp. Let's hop in and see what happens. I'm going to be reviewing half the game sort of from Down1's perspective, the other half from T1's perspective. Kind of depends on when their win condition is online. I'm going to be looking at the team that has their win condition currently relevant on the map. So we're gonna start watching the game here. We're gonna see, first thing I'm looking at, where does the jungler start? So in this case I'm looking at Lee Sin, because I want Lee Sin in the early game to get Ezreal ahead. Basically, that's what I see as his task. So he's starting on the bot side. He's gonna path towards top. So the first plans I'm thinking about is like he's gonna gank mid to set Zoe free so Zoe can roam bot, or he's gonna gank top at the 4-minute mark to get the perfect reset for Dragon. Those are the plans I'm thinking of right now. So in all those plans he could just do a full clear, then gank one of the solo laners just to get pressure, just to get priority for the first objective, which is Dragon. They should be able to get that. So we're gonna see him pathing. He's on Wolves now. He's gonna go to Raptors, then to Red. I think he's gonna skip Crux in this game. because he wants to scuttle. We're gonna see that in a little bit. So this first push in bot lane is perfectly fine. I think they probably want to bounce it on the 4th wave, which it seems like they are gonna do, but they don't push this cannon for some reason, so they don't get it under turret. Which means they are kind of freezing themselves in front of the turret for no reason. That's a little bit weird. So yeah, we're gonna see Lee Sin is done with his red buff. He skips his Crux because he probably assumes Graves is on this Scuttle Crab and he wants to have it for himself. That's fine, and I suppose what Cuz on Graves is doing here is really big brain. Also, Ghost pushing this lane makes absolutely no sense. This is the wave you wanted to push back, and you can have that if you don't attack the minions, so attacking the minions here is pure int, and it causes this gank. In the meantime, you can see that Canyon is not doing anything at all. He took that Scuttle Crab, then walked towards mid and then bases in his bot side jungle. He could have easily ganked top, pushed in that wave, reset at 420. 420 reset is the perfect reset for Dragon. And then you would have had the pressure to take Dragon. Right now he actually based too soon. He could have easily waited, pressure top, then go base. Now he's too soon. He's already on the side of the map that will have the Dragon, but the Dragon is not there yet. So I think he's gonna go do 2 camps right now. That should be Gromp and Wolves. Again, like after Gromp and Wolves, it's still fine. Ezreal can go base and teleport back. You will still have the pressure. And I think they do actually teleport Ghost back in. But then Canyon doesn't go for the Dragon at all. Like they also get the perfect reset off of Zoe, who is just back in lane now. So Dragon should be pretty free at this point. But they don't go for it. So that's a little bit disappointing. Instead, like Canyon walks from Grom to Wolves to a random point in the enemy jungle and then goes back to his Raptors and I think ultimately even his Crocs, which is some pretty disgusting backwards pathing, honestly. Especially since Lee Sin is the one who has to do something in the early game. Graves is not under any pressure to make something happen. So yeah, we're gonna see Lee Sin actually path all the way back to Crux. Could have had the Dragon in the meantime. For some reason doesn't decide to go for it. Very disappointing. Should have easily had it at this point. So at this moment I consider the first Dragon to be sort of a failed attempt. So I'm already looking at the next objective, which is Rift Herald. And just like you can make a 420 reset to be on time perfectly for Dragon, you can make a 720 reset to be perfectly on time for Herald. So just like Canyon could have ganked top at 4 minutes, he could do the same at 7 minutes. But instead he goes base and he's too early again. So that's another missed attempt. So yeah, Canyon again moving towards bot lane. It seems like they still want to, I guess, go for this Dragon, which is strange. They also sent their bot lane towards base, and I think they could have easily reset to get the Herald. That would have been a very useful objective, because they want to break turrets so that they can create Baron pressure at 20 minutes. They want to break turrets as fast as possible. They have to basically keep making the tempo, the way I see it. So Canyon again is just going to farm his jungle. And also not go for Dragon, I think. Also not go for Herald. So he's gonna do a third almost full clear, which is kind of weird. Like, Canyon hasn't done anything yet. And that's not just on him, like that's also on the wave management, or lack thereof. Or maybe the lack of synergy between wave management and jungle pathing, which is kind of perplexing. But it's definitely there. So yeah, at this point, basically nothing happens, which I think is the reason why LCK is so far behind on LPL right now. It's for these reasons. You have this Lee Sin who needs to do something early, and it's over 8 minutes in, and he hasn't done anything at all. So yeah, Ghost is about to die now from Twisted Fate and Yasuo. Which I guess is a proper punishment for Canyon finally doing an objective. Yeah, it's kind of weird that when they start the objective they have no setup. Like, there wasn't a force before starting the objective. It was just everybody kind of stood around in lane and was like, let's do this objective now. Instead of planning ahead 1 minute, just setting up a play before, resetting together as a team, taking the objective. At 7:20 that would have been pretty free. So it will be a while before something actually happens. So then the next thing that's happening is Canyon using the Rift Herald. So now he's back to farming again for, I don't know, reasons, I guess. So, I mean, he could make his way bot now and just put it down since Yasuo isn't even there. I suppose they take Dragon at this point. That's fine. It's 5 minutes later than they could have had it, but that's still fine. And after that, I don't really remember. I've watched the games a couple of times. I don't really remember what happens next. But it seems Canyon is on the right side of the map. Like, I still want to see something happen in bot lane. That's the lane you want to get ahead. And can't really see what Canyon is doing. Can't really see if that's like a scuttle crab. I don't think it was. So he's just walking through the river for no reason, I think. But then we get there eventually. Now we're gonna use the Rift Herald. We want to break a turret, basically. It doesn't really matter which one, as long as we break a turret and we can rotate. And with we, I mean Dawn1, because I'm sort of looking from their perspective right now. So a turret doesn't quite get broken yet. That's, you know, it's not necessary yet, but with some better pathing and some more proactive play, it could have been down at this point. Oh, and by the way, Canyon is farming again. So literally from the bot lane he walked backwards to Gromp. That's such bad pathing. It's so bad. It's honestly kind of baffling how you path all the way back into your jungle and then forwards to take raptors. Like, this is his punishment for his top laner dying. He's gonna take one raptor camp, and I believe he's gonna walk all the way back into his own jungle from here. I think he's first gonna hand off blue buff, and I actually believe he's going for wolves afterwards. It's all very strange. Like, they could have just had that bot lane turret, in my opinion. But, I mean, Canyon seems more interested in farming. By the way, Canyon hasn't been base since, I think, 9 minutes. And he decides to go in on this fight. Even though Yasuo has a full item, and I mean, he should be ahead of this Yasuo by now. But Yasuo is ahead of him with a full item, full boots, and a starting item. Where Canyon only had the jungle item. So, yeah, that's kind of weird. So yeah, a whole lot of nothing for the next couple 2 minutes. Yeah, and all this doing nothing really favors T1 because they don't need a neutral objective to win the game. They only need farm on Twisted Fate, and Twisted Fate can basically end the game on his own. Which we will see later he almost does, but not quite. This is also a pretty strange mistake. So Kana just stole the red buff and then didn't realize that Lee Sin would be top. Even though naturally Lee Sin would move towards his red buff because he just handed off his blue buff. So if I believe correctly, if I remember correctly, I think we are going to see a dragon attempt next after this replay. Yeah, so we're moving around this dragon. To be fair, T1 really don't even care about dragon. Because of their win condition, they couldn't care less about any dragon. Doesn't even matter if the enemy would get Ocean Soul or something. Because they don't really need to team fight anybody. They can just outsplit Dom1. But anyway, we're gonna contest this dragon anyway, and it does get stolen, to be fair. So I think fair play to them. We are gonna see some questionable top lane teleports here, though. So the objective gets stolen, and then it's first Kana teleporting in to kill. I suppose they wanted to kill the whole team to get the mid lane turret. That's fine. Nagari's teleport doesn't make any sense, though. At that point, you got the dragon, or you didn't get it because it got stolen. It's a lost fight anyway. You're just giving up so many minions in top lane. You could have easily pushed that up and put a lot of damage into that top lane turret. There's no need to respect this Aatrox teleport so much. This is just paying too much respect, which essentially gives up a teleport for free, and Kana gets gets an additional CS lead. So yeah, that's a really bad teleport by Nagari. So anyway, that dragon should have definitely gone to Dom1. It should not have been stolen. That's like a mechanical outplay or a misplay, depending on how you see it. Next objective would be Rift Herald. Dom1 still are the ones who need to make something happen. They want this Rift Herald. So they're sending Ezreal base now. And this Ezreal should be going to the Rift Herald as well. Which he does do. So this is definitely a correct play by Dom1, in my opinion. They want to Rift Herald, they want to break mid lane at this point, which they will do. So this is actually a part of the game that I really like from Damwon. I think this is the correct call. They still want to make the tempo because they, once again, they need the neutral objective to win. T1 does not. So we're gonna see this getting taken down. Just barely before it resets. And I do believe Damwon is immediately using this one, which is definitely nice to see. And that's how you can sort of snowball your control over the map. Like the next thing I would want to see Damwon doing is to get vision in that enemy blue side jungle, basically. Because that's how you control the Baron area. So they took down the mid lane turret. Now they have to control the vision there, take the top side turret as well. That's how you build Baron pressure. So Damwon is not in a horrible spot just yet. So we're gonna see some resets and basically a whole lot of nothing happening again. But now we see some new lane assignments. It's Twisted Fate in the top lane, Aatrox in bot lane. I don't mind it yet, but I already think it's suboptimal in this situation. I would actually prefer to have Twisted Fate in bot lane. Maybe not at this point yet, but definitely at later moments. That would be much better than what they end up going for. So yeah, Cuz gets killed. Kana kind of moves in for no reason, and Faker does kill this turret, so that's nice. I think he doesn't see cannon here, so that's why he backs off, which is very much understandable. So yeah, I think I may be wrong on this one. I think Aatrox could have pushed a little bit further as Cuz was getting killed, but I guess that's a bit risky. Might be a bit of a controversial statement to say you should push when some of your teammates are getting killed. So this is a horrible fight. And it's not just because of the outcome. It's not because of the result of this fight that's bad. It's once again because T1 doesn't care about dragons. They couldn't care less about any objective as long as Twisted Fate gets strong enough. So basically running into the enemy team without any setup is just, I mean, that is a wrong decision in itself, but the objective they are fighting for is not one they would actually want to have, nor is it one they care particularly much about if Damwon got it. So that's pure int. So I think at this point Kana could still push up, but he already moves back, which I don't think is necessary. And then yeah, this fight, I mean they probably could have played it a lot better. Other analysts might say just play it mechanically better, but I would say the fight in itself is a wrong idea because of the objective you are contesting. It's not one you care about, it's not one you care about giving up. So why contest it in the first place? So at this point I think, yeah, Faker is in top lane. He should definitely be bot now. Because he is the one who's gonna smash turrets without any counterplay, basically. Aatrox is not gonna do that. And you want to basically have the one who kills turrets the fastest as far away from the Baron as possible, because the Baron is the enemy win condition. So if you put your split pusher, like your split push mage in this case, as far away from the Baron as possible, it means that Damwon can never start Baron. They first have to kill Faker. At this point, if Faker is on the same side of the map as Baron, he's not forcing a decision, because Damwon can just group towards that side. Then they have Faker and they have the Baron, both in sort of the same control. Because they don't really care about Aatrox in a side lane. They can send cannon to him like a wave too late, and nothing is lost. This is a fantastic play, by the way. But then Nagari dies, but then Damwon also could have just taken this tier 2 in top lane, but for some reason decided to walk after T1 for absolutely no reason. Yeah, so what started as a very good pick then sort of got shut down by some very questionable positioning by Nagari, and then an even more questionable chase, I guess, by Damwon. It's not really a chase, they were just strolling after T1 for literally no reason. They could have taken this tier 2. I guess the tier 2 may not be the most important objective, but they could have gotten it for free, so I think that's still better than getting absolutely nothing and wasting time. The original play is like fantastic though. But then Nagari, like, he could have pushed a mid lane wave in this moment. And instead he's doing absolutely nothing. He's just walking into the jungle for no reason. So again, I think we see some completely wrong lane matchups or lane assignments coming out from T1, because they keep sending Twisted Fate towards the top lane. And I already explained my point on that, but I'll keep doing it again, because if I repeat it, maybe it sounds a little bit different, maybe it gets more clear, I don't know. He should be on the opposite side of the map of the objective. He shouldn't be on the same side as the objective is. Because once again, like, he's forcing nothing. Damwon does not get punished for all grouping towards this barren side of the map. If Faker was on the other side of the map, he would have punished them immediately. So yeah. Then we go in for a fight. Which again, I don't like. I don't like this fight from T1. For the same reason, like, there's no reason to take this fight. This time they win the fight. Last time they got destroyed in the fight. Now they win it. It's still equally bad in my opinion, because this dragon does not matter. It's a completely irrelevant objective, because T1 can win without any team fight. Just because they have the Twisted Fate who can ult into the base and just win the game for them. And dragons are for team fighting. Actually, dragons are only relevant if you have two team fight comps against each other. So one has an edge over the other. But this isn't team fight versus team fight. It's team fight versus solo carry win condition. So if Faker would have just been in a side lane at this point, while the rest of his team just danced around Dragon. You know, you could even argue that Faker could be top lane at that point, because Damwon want to go for Dragon for whatever reason. So he's on the opposite side of the map, opposite to the objective. So then it would be fine, but then he decides to group and go for a fight. At least they win it this time. But it's pointless. There's no reason for him to go there. So again, Faker is in the wrong lane. He keeps going top for really no reason whatsoever. Again, like Dom 1, under zero pressure. Even though Faker absolutely melts turrets at this point, he's not pressuring Dom 1. Which is weird. It's very weird. So he's going base. I would assume like he's going base to go bot now, but I think he just walks straight to top. Straight back to top lane. Or even mid this time. Yeah, I forgot. They are going for another fight in mid lane. So basically the way I see it, T1 wants to break the base open at this point. That's what they want to do, so they can TF ult into the base and just win. And it's easier to do that in a side lane. So why they focus solely on mid in this moment, that's kind of weird. They could just split this game and there would be very little Dom 1 can do. So again, this is a fight that goes well. Also a fight that is not needed. And I think I may be wrong. There is a point where Faker wastes his teleport for no reason. May have already happened, I don't know. So we have Aatrox in the side lane. Now maybe he can break open the base for Faker to teleport in later. Because this is actually a pretty good push from Aatrox here. He can just stay here. He can dual cannon at this moment, I think. I mean, he's gonna wait for him in a bush and then kill him. But I think even in lane, he would do pretty well. So yeah, that's a dead cannon, and then SKT, or I guess T1, fights for no reason, and also bring up Kana for no reason, because Kana could have just kept pushing. Like basically the objective they are fighting for is Baron, which they don't need. And they already made sure that Dom 1 wasn't going to be able to pick it up. And this is just pure Fiesta. This makes no sense. This is not fighting for anything at all. So yeah, all the fights that T1 take, I'm not a fan of. Once again, because they don't need to fight to win. They need to split, and that's not what they're doing. And yeah, this is the moment where it goes horribly wrong. I don't really have to comment on this. This is just... I guess they keep fighting and eventually it will go wrong. Because that's not their win condition. If they deny fights for an entire game, that's how they win. So they give a free Baron to Dom 1. And I have to let you listen to this LS clip.
Destiny Gate is going to be available. This is going to go down actually way too fast, but T1 should have a chance to fight over the mountain. And that should mean that T1 are still going to be fine.
It is very amusing to me that even though Dom 1 basically got their win condition for free here, they got the Baron, we are still talking about how do they get Dragon? How do they get Dragon? They don't need it. They have Baron. That's all they need to win. If they just push with Baron, instead of wandering into the jungle and trying to contest Dragon, which is exactly what they are going to do, they could just win the game right here. Obviously, running into the jungle with Baron and contesting a Dragon is way better. Always do that. Never push any lanes. Never split the map when you have Baron. Just all group up in the jungle That's how you use Baron. That's obviously the best way to do it. So yeah, there's no split pusher. I guess Cannon didn't have the Baron buff because he was dead. But still, you could have sent 4 people top and 1 mid. And then T1, if they were stupid enough to do Dragon at that point, then the 4 people in bot lane just take an inhibitor. And the 1 person in mid is just there to pressure, just to keep the waves baroned up. Instead they ARAM and their wave gets cleared and they lose the Dragon that they were apparently trying to contest with Baron. I don't get it. So this is horrible positioning by Canyon right here. I think the TF ult is coming in. And he's trying to group with his team, which is the exact opposite of what you want to do. He just wanted to walk back up the mid lane. Try to get in a safe position and Baron up the next wave. But because he walks towards his team, he basically dies for free. Because this also costs them the push. Also, the rest of his team shouldn't move into the jungle at that point. Just stay in lane where you have your Baron minions. Just take the turret. T1 can't really engage on that. So yeah, we're gonna look at it again. Like, why are they all moving into the jungle? Why are they so eager to fight? They have Baron buff. They should be running the game right now. But they decide to not run the game. Basically, they decide that the game should be taken away from them again. First by wandering into the jungle and not splitting the map, not pushing at all. And then if T1 wants to fight, Dom1 just says, okay, let's fight. Let's play to what we don't want to do with Baron buff. Very disappointing. Very, very bad Baron play. Also, Faker is on the wrong side of the map again. I guess it technically doesn't really matter at this point, because there is no Baron buff to speak of anymore. By the way, for those of you who think that I'm just complaining too much about the Baron play, do note that Dom1 only got 1 turret with that entire Baron. It's a 1 turret Baron play, because first they move to Dragon, which once again is the best way to do a Baron play. Always move into the jungle, never into the lanes. So they first do that, and then they fight under T1's rules, so to say. That's not the word I'm looking for, but... And then they lose the entire Baron play. It's a 1 turret Baron play. So yeah, this is also a pretty bad setup by T1 right here. Because they spent the last 2 minutes, I guess, maybe 1 minute, maybe I'm a bit too harsh, not pressuring anything. So they just wander into the jungle and run around in lanes and never push it past the halfway point, which is what they want to do because they want to break the base open by now. I suppose they can wait for another 20 minutes and eventually they will win because they have Twisted Fate ultimate to finish the game with. But I don't think that's the best way to play League of Legends, and I think that is exactly the reason why the LPL is so far ahead of the LCK right now. Because they don't wait around. This is a wrong League of Legends, just pushing a wave to the midway point, then going base or running into the jungle for no reason, and then doing the same thing until finally a neutral objective spawns so you can run into that with all 10 people at the same time. I don't think that's the best way to play. I really don't. So yeah, down one decides to walk into mid lane without having side lane pressure. And I think if Faker just uses his ultimate to get behind this top lane turret immediately, he could have gotten that inhibitor. They know Damwon is still going for Dragon here, so he can just take the inhib. So yeah, now we see T1 for some reason grouping around Baron, even though they don't care about Baron. That's not how they want to win, so why would they be there first? They don't need to be there at all. All they need to do is basically have Faker in bot lane pushing. And then Dom1 Gaming will have to make a choice on what they do. That's how they want to play this. But I don't think that's what's gonna happen because they are just grouping up. They're sending Aatrox bot again, who once again is not the one who's going to melt turret. That is Twisted Fate. That's Faker on Twisted Fate. He's going to melt the turrets. You want to send him as far away from the objective as possible. Still not what they're doing. It's still the wrong lane assignment. So finally, he does make his way towards the bot side, which is where he should have been this entire time. So he did not trust his own Q. That's kind of unfortunate. Does get out. And now Faker is gonna go base. And then he's gonna teleport to the wrong side of the map. Because he's gonna teleport back to the top side instead of the bot side. And that just blows my mind. He could have just teleported back bot while the rest of his team did Baron. Even though they technically don't need Baron, this is still how you force the team. Why would you teleport towards the objective that you don't want? that doesn't make any sense. This is just completely backwards lane assignments. He should have teleported to the bot lane, start melting that turret. Then Dom1 would have basically had no counterplay. And then they lose the Baron. And actually I'm gonna end it here, because I don't think anybody can make sense of the last 7 minutes of this game. It's pure fiesta mode. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I know it's a bit of a different style than the other video. I'm just talking for 40 minutes straight here. I may have said some things that weren't correct because maybe a bit of lack of focus there. But thank you for watching. If you stuck around till the end, I applaud you. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.